The topic for today is ladies. 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 I feel like singing for you ladies today. I feel like singing a song for you. I feel like coming up with a song for ladies. Ooh, this is the kind of time I would have liked to. I wish I'd known how to compose a song right immediately. Feel like singing for you ladies today. Feel like singing for you. All right. So the topic of today is ladies, think maturity before you think marriage. All right. Ladies, please think maturity before you think marriage. And even if you are already married, you still need that maturity even in your marriage. So ladies, please think maturity before you think about marrying. Before you even consider marriage, think maturity. So those three things must have happened in the life of a lady before she even considers marriage, Normally, when we talk about maturity, from my own understanding and from my experience of pastoring for over almost 25 years now, I have discovered that women, when it comes to marriage, tend to think that it is the man that must be matured for marriage before marriage. And women tend to put the responsibility of maturity on the man. And when they talk to their mothers or their parents or their friends, they even go to the extent of bragging and being proud of how mature they think their spouse or their fiancé is, or the man that is wooing them is. So most women think when we talk about maturity, it should be the primary concern of the man, and that it is the man that must think maturity, and that it is the man that must be matured. So as long as the man is matured, the woman tends to relax a little bit. The woman tends to think that, well, I'm going to follow him, so I don't have any problem. I'm just a woman. I follow after my husband, so I follow after him. The most important thing is that he is matured. However, allow me to correct that notion today and maybe tomorrow, and I want to correct that notion. And the truth of the matter is that marriage is actually the union of two matured people. So marriage is not the union of one matured person and another one half matured person. Marriage is the union of two adequately matured people. So for a marriage to work and for a marriage to work out properly, both the man and the woman must be matured. Both the man and the woman have to be matured. Now, if it is only the man that is matured, then there is an imbalance there in that marriage. And definitely somebody will suffer. Secondly, someone will be oppressed. Thirdly, someone will have to be another person's slave in that relationship. And it's not going to be an equal or even relationship. That relationship will be full of abuses. And that relationship will also be full of oppression. That relationship will be full of one partner taking advantage of the other one. Hence, marriage is a union for two matured people. Now, when we talk about maturity, what do we mean? I'm going to be spending, like I said, this whole day and tomorrow, this whole program and tomorrow talking about this. So, when we talk about maturity, what should a woman pay attention to? Let me start with the question you want to ask yourself as a woman before, in terms of maturity, all right, before you even begin to think of marriage. If you don't want to sell yourself out, and if you don't want to mortgage your right, your birthright, too many women are doing this. Too many women are just selling themselves as into slavery, not marriage. That is slavery. Too many women are selling themselves out and mortgaging their lives. Not just they are mortgaging their lives, not even just their bodies this time. They are mortgaging their lives. This is worse than prostitution. It's worse than being a prostitute. Too many ladies are mortgaging their very lives out. Not for one night, not for 2 nights. They are mortgaging their very lives out for years to come, almost for the rest of their lives. Just because somebody didn't teach them. Just because they were not taught. Just because they didn't know that one major thing they must attain, they must work on themselves. In what area, one major aspect where they must work on themselves is in the area of maturity. Because they've not been taught, because they've not been told, and because they have not taken the time to actually groom themselves, work upon themselves, and make sure that they are matured enough for marriage. I mean, many women now are suffering in relationships where they were not supposed to be in the first place. Many women that maybe up to, in some countries, up to 50% of marriages, 50% of wives who call themselves wives, women who are legally married, legitimately married, who are having children. Not just that they are not enjoying their marriages, but they are actually feeling that they are slaves, that they have been sold into slavery. A lot of women, up to 50% of married women are feeling as if they are in prison, as if they are being sold out into prison, into bondage. And many of them are thinking they will never get out, and many of them are dreaming of getting out. And this is all because of one little problem, because they did not consider developing themselves and being matured enough before they enter into a marriage covenant. I therefore want to emphasize this truth, that apart from what we already spoke about for 2 days, self-sufficiency, apart from attaining self-sufficiency, you must also attain maturity. Every lady must attain maturity. And you must answer yourself some questions and really be able to be sincere with yourself before you even consider any man coming to you at all. You don't even give any man a chance. Don't even consider building a family or getting the fact that you are physically matured, or you are big enough, or you are grown in age. That is not a criteria enough for marriage. I mean, physical growth and physical age, you don't need to do anything for that. That's just your body. That is not you. And when we talk about marriage, it's not just your body that marries. It's not just your body that goes into that marriage. It is your person that goes into that marriage. It is your heart that goes into that marriage. It is your mind that goes into that marriage. It is your soul that goes into that marriage. And if you have not developed that soul to the place of maturity, if you have not developed that heart, that character, that personality to the place that you are matured enough to cohabit with another human being, it will be a tragic story. To just be a tragedy. It will just be like a story that I just read in the internet the other day, where Muslim man is marrying 8-year-old baby, 8-year-old girl, an 8-year-old girl or 9-year-old girl that that died as a result because she was not matured for sex, and she received so much sexual trauma that she died. Because a 40-year-old man or 45-year-old man was married, illegally married an 8-year-old girl, slept with her, and damaged her. But, that is the obvious one. That is what is visible to everybody. Everybody could see that it is wrong for a matured man, for a 45-year-old man to marry an 8-year-old girl. But that is physical one. But that same form of damage and that same, form of death is happening on daily basis to women who are not 8 years old, who are 18 years old, 28 years old, 38 years old, 58 years old, 48 years old, women who are grown up women who are physically grown up, but because they have not attained maturity, is the same thing as marrying at the age of 8. It's the same thing as marrying as immature girl physically. But you see, we only look at the physical maturity as the basis for somebody to be married. But that is not enough, my dear. It's not enough. Just physical criteria that is very elementary. That is very primitive to just look at your age and say, but on the basis that you are grown up as to be 30 years old or 25 years old, that is the enough reason for you to marry. No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That physical maturity is not enough a reason to consider marriage for a woman. A woman must be groomed until she is taught to be self-sufficient. A woman must be groomed and be taught until she's been developed into full maturity as a human being, she has developed a human capacity to maturity. And besides that, a woman must attain the state of wholeness. She has to be whole. She has to be sure that she's whole before she considers marriage as well. So those are the 3 important things that must take place in the life of a lady before she even considers, agreeing or even talking to a man. So what are the questions a lady needs to ask herself to find out if she is matured enough for marriage or not? Number 1. As a lady, ask yourself this question. How healthy am I with myself? How healthy am I mentally, spiritually? How whole am I? How self-sufficient am I? How healthy am I? What do I mean by that? I mean by how have you been healed? How healed are you? Are you sure you've been healed from any damage, from any damages in your life? Because if you, a lady that is not healed from trauma, some of the women in a lot of families, they grew up with damages, with a lot of traumas. If that trauma and the wounds of your upbringing have not been healed, you are not mature enough for marriage. You are not matured enough for marriage just on the basis of the fact that you have those injuries, damages traumas in your life or in your past that might have been caused by different things. For example, if a woman or a lady that grew up with a despot father, with a wicked father, with a husband, with a father that is beating her, abusing her, and damaging her, and that is so wicked towards her that she is panicky before this father. That woman is not matured enough for a marriage. If that woman, and that's what often happens, that kind of woman will run away from her family. That kind of woman wants to run away and escape from her father's family. And then she will run into the wrong hands, and she will most likely go and marry that same kind of man that is resembling her own father. Or she will go and marry the opposite of a man that is too weak to become a real man. So she has to be the one to take care of her, of not just herself and her children, but she will be the one to take care of him even. So that's why, to allow such a lady that grew up in an atmosphere of abuse, in an atmosphere of family abuse, parental abuse. Sometimes it's not just your father that abuses you. Sometimes, especially in Africa where we are coming from, sometimes our parents, even our mothers, abuse us. All the shoutings, all the ridiculing, all the humiliation, all the abuse, all the bad language, all the name calling that they heap on the head of a baby girl. Oh my God. That is not healthy for her. And that's what I'm saying, that are you healthy enough to marry? I mean, those abuses, those moral abuses, those physical abuses, those psychological abuses, mental abuses, calling you names, hitting you in the head, they damage a lady, they damage a girl so much that she is not ready to marry. She shouldn't go to marry until she's been healed from that kind of damage. I mean, I remember when I was growing up in Africa, even as a boy, even as a man, so much damage. Just because in Africa, they just abuse you anyhow, call you names, beat you up, knock you in the head, just beat you up, push you up and down, upside down, and just totally destroy your self-image, your self-respect, put you down and just humiliate you, ruin your personality, damage your self-esteem, damage your respect for yourself, damage your personality, just in the name of trying to bring you up, in the name of bringing, in the name of discipline, So much damage sometimes is accompanying the life of the girl. So much pain is accompanying the life of that girl. So much destruction inside of her. So much pain inside of her sometimes. So much damage inside of that girl. First of all, she has to be alone. She has to come out and be by herself and go through total restoration, total healing first. She needs that healing first. She needs that restoration. She needs that wholeness. She needs that health first, because she's bleeding right now. She's bleeding, emotionally. She's bleeding, mentally. She's bleeding internally. Not blood, but just damage inside. And that's what happened to a lot of girls that I know. I mean, everybody will beat them, just abuse them and mistreat them. It doesn't have to be sexual abuse. Some of them are sexually abused, but not always sexual abuse. Some of those things that we call bringing up a child or disciplining a child, some of them have caused so much traumatic experiences with those ladies, with those girls. And then they come out of school and they immediately go and marry, or they meet somebody in school and go and marry. Can you imagine what kind of marriage that girl is going to have, that traumatic experience will continue. That trauma will continue. That pain will continue. That damage will continue. That abuse will continue. Only she has changed places. She has changed the abusive father or mother to an abusive husband. Or maybe not even the husband, but it could be an abusive mother-in-law or an abusive father-in-law or an abusive family member. Because she's been victimized all her life, she will not be able to stand up for herself, to defend herself. So if you love yourself, if you care for yourself, ladies, make sure that before you even begin to think about being matured, make sure that you are healed first. Let's resolve that question. Let's make sure that you are healed first before we now begin to think about you growing to maturity. Let's sit down and answer yourself that question. Sit down and remember all the things that you went through. If you need some help, get some help. Get some psychological help. Get some spiritual help. Maybe not those deliverance ministers that are just oppressing. Even those... I'm sorry that even those deliverance ministers, they are also as abusive as those. Are they not these deliverance ministers who are accusing young girls and young boys of witchcraft and being witches and wizards? Are they not pastors who are doing that? And is that not abuse? I think some of those ministers, especially those deliverance ministers, they are as abusive as the witchcraft babalawos and the black magic and the juju people. They are as abusive as those juju people, as those voodoo people. They are as abusive. I mean, can you imagine, calling a girl and locking up a girl in some churches for a week and shouting upon her, telling her she needs deliverance, putting her in some ugly and terrible situation, lock them up in some remote, underground or rooms in some places, maybe strip them naked or 10 men standing on top of them and trying to cast demons out of them. Can you imagine the kind of oppression that is? Can you imagine the kind of oppression, the kind of abuse that is, the kind of damage, the kind of mental damage, the kind of psychological damage, the kind of, so those churches where, in fact, I personally believe that those churches where they are doing deliverance every week or every day or every week, all the time, where they're seeing demons and accusing people that you need deliverance, you need demons, you need that, those churches, you need to run away from them because they are adding to your abuse. I even know churches that, I mean, even grown-ups are being abused. There is a lady that I heard the story of a lady from UK here. This is a grown-up woman, because she didn't have a child and she wanted to have a baby so badly. And she went with her husband. Thank God the husband who didn't have too much time for that. He left her there. And this woman left for Nigeria. And, they started making her not to eat for 7 days fast, then 21 days fast, and then making her to pray and to they just kept her in a room for like 3 months. They kept this woman in a room for 3 months and she was doing it by herself. She agreed to it. Just because she wanted to get pregnant. Just because she wanted to have a baby. Praying for her and, making her lie on the floor until she lost her mind. She got crazy. Another one also from England here went to another famous ministry in Nigeria, one of the biggest churches in the country, because she wanted healing from cancer. And they started doing all this deliverance for her, all this deliverance up and down, until she died there. Because they just damaged her. She was supposed to be in the hospital here and go to heal. All kind of abuses. When they begin to tell you, stay in the church for 3 weeks, stay in the church for 2 weeks, stay in the church for 1 month, 3 months, there will be, all those people will be coming to cast demons out of you from morning till night. Why do you need 2 days, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to cast a demon out of a human being? Can you imagine the moral stress that is bringing? Can you imagine the amount of moral abuse, emotional abuse that is going to cause? So some of these churches are as deadly, they are as dangerous, they are center of abuse. In fact, some of the people who have been in those kind of churches for too long, they should not go to marry too. Because if you go to marry and you have been abused like that, conduct with men conducting or women conducting deliverance on you, with all those deliverance, and how will you be healthy? How will you build a healthy home? How will you raise healthy children? Well, I'm sorry if I got too emotional today. But it's so sad for me. It's so sad. These are the things that are happening in my continent. These are the kind of things that are happening in my continent. These are the kind of things that are happening in my continent. Breaks my heart. And the ladies and the women are the receiving end of that. The ladies are most often at the receiving end of this. Everybody wants to cast out demons from them. So I think after all those traumatic experiences that women need to recover, before you go and live with another person, you don't want to go and live with a man with those traumatic experiences. You don't want to go and live with a man with those abuses. You need to be healed first. You need to be healed first. So that is the number one question that a lady must ask herself. Am I healed from all traumas and abuses that have taken place in my life, either through my parents or through my school teachers? I don't even want to talk about schools, because the kind of abuses that are going on in the schools, they are just so damaging for the ladies. I mean, can you imagine a lady is being, beaten and smacked, and I mean, not just like little symbolically, like some of them have been beaten until they have wounds come out of them. So they have been beaten until they actually experience trauma or damage, scars in schools. So a lady must recover emotionally. A lady must be made whole, be healed emotionally. A lady must totally recover before she could even consider marriage or going to set up a family or something like that. But in Africa especially, most ladies just suppress these things. Most ladies just put these things down. They just suppress them and they just, move on. They just move on. But that later on, have consequences on them. That's why they die young later on. They fall sick. They become an emotional wreck. They die, they have cancer. They have different diseases. They break down. They have emotional breakdown. They die young. And then they give birth to children they cannot take care of. They cannot, raise the child healthy. The child becomes another emotional wreck. And they themselves begin to be abusive to the children, because their authority figures in their lives have been abusive to them, so they now become abusive to their own children. So, first of all, talking about maturity, you must first of all make sure that you are healed. You must be healed emotionally. You must be healed mentally, you must be healed, just, spiritually or whatever, you must make sure that you are healed, that you are no more suffering from those traumas, that mentally, in your memory or pain, emotionally, you are no more suffering from those traumas, you are no more suffering from the abuses, that the things that have happened to you in the past, you've been able to put them in your past under the blood of Jesus, and you've been healed of them, of those memories, and that you are totally whole right now. Next thing you need to ask yourself when we are talking about maturity is, you need to ask yourself if you are free from any kind of anger, irritation, and hatred towards those people that probably abused you, mistreated you, or damaged you. That could be in relation to your parents. That could be in relation to your authority, to figures who are, to individuals that were authority figures in your life. It could be your brothers, your uncle, your cousin. It could be your teachers, or just people who have inflicted pain on you. So before you consider marriage or anything like that, please make sure you deal with that. Make sure you deal with that. Make sure you deal with with forgiveness. Make sure you totally forgive these people. Make sure you let go of the anger. Make sure you let go of the hatred. Make sure you don't conceive or conceal any anger or hatred in your heart towards any of these people, unforgiveness. Make sure you forgive them totally. Another thing you want to ask, another question you want to ask yourself before you move on to marriage or even consider marriage is, you must ask yourself this: do you have some? You have to ask yourself, do I have some complexes as a result of what I've gone through? Are there some complexes in my life? And especially people who are in Africa, some of the people experience complexes. One of these very widespread complexes that most people from Africa might have experienced, especially ladies, might be in connection with growing up poor. So if you were raised up from a poor family, from a disadvantaged family, or from a family where you've thought that you are worse than other people, with that kind of complex, you don't want to rush into a marriage, because if you go into a marriage having the inferiority complex, you are going to become a victim in that marriage. You are going to become a victim in that marriage. So you want to be healed of any kind of complexes before you marry. Make sure you deal with it. Talk it over with some people. There are different forms of complexes. The complexes are not just that you feel yourself inferior, because you are coming from a poor background. So you feel that anybody who receives you, and if a man approaches you and he begins to do something for you, you are actually feeling that he's doing you a favor. You are thinking that even for paying attention to you, that any man is there doing you a favor. And then you feel obliged, and that could push you actually into the arms of the wrong men. And then men will take advantage of you. That's why before you even consider relationship at all, you must be free from those complexes. And there might be other complexes. Some ladies have complexes that is connected with their look. Some ladies might have complexes that they are too fat. Some might have complexes that they are too slim. Some might have complexes that they're having too small breast or too big breast, or too, all kind of complexes attack women. Make sure that you build your confidence. Make sure that you open up to somebody. You open up to a mother figure or father figure, a specialist or psychologist, or somebody should be there for you to help you. Because in most cases, women might think that these are things you don't want to talk about, or these are things that that you are ashamed of talking about. But you need to talk about them, because if you don't, Satan will attack you perpetually in your marriage. And you will think that if your marriage fails, it is now because of you, or it is you that is at fault. You might think that you are not good enough, or because of your complexes that you are not set free from. That is why maybe your husband is not faithful to you, or that's why other women are more interesting than you, or that's just all kinds of stories could begin to come, and Satan will just beat you down, anyway, ask yourself questions about complexes, okay? Please ask yourself questions about complexes, and make sure that you are healed from every complex before you go into a marriage, before you go into a relationship. Make sure you accept yourself. Make sure you receive yourself, because otherwise those complexes will draw you and push you into the wrong relationships. Those complexes will push you into the wrong arms, into the wrong hands. And some people will take advantage of those your complexes. And marriage is a place where you go to for life, And since you are going to that relationship for life, you don't want a situation whereby you suffer for life. You suffer for life, or you give up half of your life just, in the pain of regret that you did not deal with this thing, while you could have dealt with them before you even went into any relationship. So what I'm saying is that some of these things must be discussed. So these things, they are factors that play a huge role in your maturity. Before you could give yourself a pass mark that you are matured enough for marriage, these things must be dealt with. It is only when you have passed through this that you could say, yes, I'm mature enough for marriage. So age is not an excuse to be married. I know some people, some girls especially, they go into a relationship after they have just broken up from another relationship. They go and marry into even a marriage relationship just after they have come out of another abusive relationship. Maybe they had a boyfriend that was abusing them, or a husband that was abusing them. And they go out of that relationship and immediately go to marry. And they escape. But what that does for them is that it gives them immediate deliverance, immediate help, but it will come back to hurt them. It will come back to hurt and destroy their lives, and it will come back to destroy their relationship, and it might even affect the lives of their children. So that's why it is important that women, first of all, get healed from all kind of relationships they've been with. Either it's from their upbringing or from their husband or from their boyfriends or from whatever relationship where they have been abused, she must first of all be healed before she goes into another one. So the next thing that you want to deal with before you could say you are matured for marriage is, as a girl, there are some wrong stereotypes, some wrong and faulty stereotypes and belief systems that you are taught or that was imposed on you. For example, do you know that there are some cultures where women are told that if their husband beats them because he's jealous, if he beats them, that means he loves them. So those are wrong concepts and stereotypes that could be very deadly. So women will endure the beating of husbands just because they think that is a sign that he loves them. So women sometimes will cope up with things they are not supposed to cope up with just because of the wrong value system, because of the wrong and faulty stereotypes that they have been taught. In some cultures, they tell the woman that it doesn't matter what a man does, a man is always right. So if you go into marriage with that kind of relationship that a man is always right, you would definitely end up being abused in that relationship. There's also some, even now, there are some there are some stereotypes that says a woman is supposed to provide for her family. Even in some churches are saying that a woman is supposed to provide for her family. And they use Proverb 31 as the reason, as the argument that you must be a wife according to Proverb 31, or you must be a Proverb 31 wife. That is silly and crazy doctrine in the body of Christ. That doctrine must be thrown away in the trash box, in the garbage box, and they should never use that to teach any woman or any lady. No lady should be measured against Proverbs 31. That is a fallacy. Because the way they teach women about Proverbs 31 as if it is God's standard for the wife. So as a result of that, some women are going to marriage thinking that they have to be like a slave to their husbands. That they have to work and provide for the husband and for their family. Whereas the truth about Proverbs 31 is that it is not; those are not the words of God. It's just like saying, you open Isaiah 14, where Lucifer was talking, that I will ascend to the eye, I will, take the throne of the God, I will become this, I will become this. And you said, since it's the word of God, since it's the Bible, it is the word of God. And you begin to believe that everything that is written in the Bible is from God. You know, in the Bible, there are some words there that are not written by God. In fact, in the Bible, there are words written by men. There are words not written, said, pronounced by men. There are words that belong to Satan. There are words that belong to Lucifer. There are words that belong to evil men. There are words that belong to different. You know, the Bible is a book that is full of everything that we'll learn from it. But not just that we just take everything blindly. So that Proverb 31 is not the word of God. It's not God speaking. In Proverb 31, it was the word of the mother of the king. If you go and look at it, you read verse 1 of that Proverb 31, you will see that it is not written for women to be their standard. It's just like saying, I am a man now, and my mother is telling me these are the things I expect from your wife. Of course, every mother is wanting the wife, the woman that the son will bring to do everything. So that it is a woman that is prescribing qualities for the future daughter-in-law. So it's just like the desire of every mother-in-law. That is the prescription of a mother-in-law to a king. And was telling the king that your wife, this is the kind of wife I want to see in you. I want your wife to be like this. So that is not saying that every woman, that God is telling every woman to now become Proverbs 31 woman. So those kind of mindset will only end up, girls becoming a sellout. There are so many other wrong doctrines and wrong mindsets and wrong philosophies and wrong stereotypes that must be corrected before you marry. So if you are the one that will go into a marriage thinking that that is who you are supposed to be, you will just kill yourself. You just run yourself down. You just destroy your own life for nothing. You just die a sheep death. And your husband will just be watching television and be reading newspapers. While you destroy your own life there. He will not do anything. So a woman must make sure that she cleanses herself from all kind of destructive understanding, doctrines and teachings and things that will just make them into slaves in future. So these are the questions that you have to ask yourself, and and remove and make sure that you become delivered from these things before you go ahead to say, okay, I do. To say I do. So what time is it, by the way? Really, I've not even started my message. This is just introduction. And the time is already gone. The time is already gone. This is just introduction. Okay, no problem. No problem. Okay, because I think this is important as well. And I think that you people need to know this too.